Faye. All right. Is the current younger generation, the current fan, the internet-raised wrestling fan, is he as, oh boy, this is going to sound strange, is he as educated as the wrestling fans that come from the generation pre-internet, like Mike and I, who ran to get all the magazines? I know that the information is out there in abundance today, but, like, for example, Road Warrior passing away, does today's generation, the internet-raised generation of wrestling fan, do they really fully get?
They know from their parents, their older brothers and their older sisters, but the WWE has done a good job with a lot of the icons of making sure that they're out there periodically, and a lot of the younger fans come to the conventions, which I miss terribly right now. And a lot of them come with their parents or their brothers and their sisters, or, I mean, I meet 8 or 9-year-old kids that know who all these people are. So yeah, a lot of the younger generation do know who these people are because of the wonderful thing that, like you're doing and I do on One Wrestling Video, is YouTube.
Is listening to the Pharaoh right now. The name of the book is Wrestling Fixed. I didn't know it was broken. I'm presently reading it right now. It's fantastic. The stories inside. And Bill, where can you get this book, Bill? I know, but I'm not telling.
I'm just reading this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go to chapter 15. It's awesome.
Most bookstores have it. It's been out for 6 years. It's not self-published. It was published by ECW Press in Canada.
ECW.
Not that ECW.
Sorry.
Entertainment, Culture, and Writing is what ECW Press stands for. I can't believe I remember that. But you can get it at most bookstores. Most Barnes & Nobles have it. You can get it on Amazon or any great book dealer. But there's if you see the cover here, you'll see some of the things. Jim Cornette hated the book. Do you know why?
What? Why?
He said, I hate Bill Apter's book. He doesn't bury anyone.
Oh.
There's
nice
no
guy.
It's a fun story, and there's an Audible. If you go to Audible, it's on Audible as well, and I do the narration. I read the book, and a lot of my wrestling imitations are in it when I'm talking about a lot of these guys, because I do hundreds of wrestling voices. But there I am with the chairman, of course, Mr. McMahon, Triple H, Ric Flair, and Andy Kaufman, who was the biggest accomplishment of my career, a lot of people say. I'm the guy who introduced him to Jerry Lawler.
Well,
it's in here.
Well, we're gonna get into that, but first I want to quickly just cover your new magazine, InsideTheRopesMagazine.com. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's not my magazine, actually.
I didn't know it was broken.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. But this is how my book has gotten out there so much. I've marketed it everywhere. I have YouTube videos of wrestling personalities answering if wrestling's fixed. It's on my One Wrestling Video channel. But the magazine is a throwback to the old school wrestling magazines. It's the first new wrestling magazine in years. These guys are taking a big gamble on this, but I got my first copy of it in the mail 3 or 4 days ago, and it was so great to hold a wrestling magazine again. Now, for you people that want to order it and go to InsideTheRopesMagazine.com, you'll see it's all in brick.
Jimmy, I gotta take a dump.
What?
No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP. The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah. Jeff Quest, graphics design, custom vinyl lettering, and all your art and video needs. 516-317-8204. That's for Jeff Quest Graphic Design.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. We're with our special guest icon, Mr. Bill Apter.
No way. Do you know what my favorite 4-letter word is that starts with the letter F?
What's that?
Free.
Well, guess what? Yeah. For being a guest on Monty and the Pharaoh, you get a free bottle of that wine. So how's that?
Oh, that would be great. That sounds great.
There you go.
Right now, my drink, if you can see this, and I drink too much of this every day, is called sparkling ice. So for my birthday, if you guys want to send a case of that here on October 22nd, strawberry lemonade's my favorite flavor. I'll give you the address.
Sparkling
DM
ice.
me.
Strawberry lemonade. Love, Matt Brock. Very good. Bill, I wanted to ask you about... You've obviously worked with the greatest promoters ever, Vince McMahon, Vern Gagne, Crockett, et cetera, et cetera. Could you compare a few of them for us? You know, like the difference between a Vince or a Vern?
Well, the Vern was very secretive. Vern knew that I knew the business, but I'd ask him a question about the business, and he'd go, oh, I don't know, I just have to go ask my son, call Greg. And then Greg would tell me whatever I needed to know. Vince Sr. was a businessman. I never really asked him what was going to happen or what was going to go on. He was very nice to me, very businesslike. Jim Crockett was, he became a good friend. We became confidants of each other. And when the WWF banned all the wrestling magazines from their buildings because they had their own magazine, Jim Crockett said, hey, I'll help you guys out. I'll put you on my TV every week. And almost every week I was on his TBS show doing Pro Wrestling Illustrated scouting reports.
Yes.
Do you remember those?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Bill, how affected were the sales of PWI when Vince launched the WWF magazine, which, by the way, I thought absolutely sucked compared to yours? Go on.
Well, thank you. But not at all. It didn't hurt us at all.
Good.
We sent people, we bought pictures from press people. We sent people in the stands with long lenses. And we weren't, it's funny because we weren't selling posters in the magazines or anything. We were reporting news. Mm-hmm. And this is why I think nothing legally was ever challenged, because we were covering wrestling like Sports Illustrated would cover football or baseball or boxing or whatever.
How did you ever get angry about it? And did you guys meet and say, you know what, we're just not even going to cover the WWE?
We took world title recognition away from them for many, many years. But it didn't really affect anything. It was controversial. Fans wrote in back then that we were wrong. Some fans supported it. We made it more like a regional promotion, and we made like the NWA was a worldwide promotion.
So wasn't that always the mindset, though? I remember Mike and I as kids, we used to get really frustrated. We would read the ratings, the rankings in the back of the mag every month for the top 10 of the NWA, AWA, WWF, and we used to get pretty frustrated because a lot of the time Bob Backlund was not number one. We would see Nick Bockwinkel or who else, Mike?
Even back then, Backlund was like number 8 behind world title holders.
He would never.
And wait a minute. No, I take
he did make Wrestler of the Year in 1982. I do know that.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
See, what we did is all our rankings were in categories. So we rarely had we had a most hated and the most popular, and Backlund might have been at 9 there. But when he was champion, he was above number 1.
Correct.
And then, and I did the rankings for each of those magazines, because every week I was on the phone regularly with every wrestling office, finding out what they were doing. I remember there was a 3-month lag time from the time we put the magazine to bed to the time it hit the street.
Correct.
A lot of things changed. Yeah.
Correct. It's amazing the staying power of the magazine. Even though it was 2 or 3 months behind, we didn't care. We wanted to pick that issue up no matter what.
Thank you.
Oh my God! It was life. It was life. Every month was life. Bill, one of the great stories of professional wrestling that always interested us. Andy Kaufman, and I want you to take the story, but I'm just going to lead you into it. Andy Kaufman comes to you and says, hey, I want to get into wrestling females or wrestling in general. And you reach out to Vince Sr. How come Sr. didn't want to go with the angle?
Well, first of all, let me explain to you what had happened. Andy was already wrestling women in his act, there in his nightclub act, and his stage show. We backstage at Madison Square Garden one night, and I had never met him. And he came over to me and he said, "Oh, you're Bill Apter. I read your magazine." He said, "And we got to be friends." And then he told me that he spoke to Vince McMahon, and Vince didn't want any showbiz people. He wanted to keep his wrestling away from showbiz people, just wrestling to be pro wrestling. Even though Vince Jr. at one point had Andy down at ringside to do some promotional work. So he said to me, "What are you doing after the matches?" And I said, "I'm going back to my apartment in Queens." He said, "Well, how do you get there?" Now, keep in mind, he was one of the stars of Taxi, one of the most top-rated comedy shows of all time. He was major star of Taxi at Alaska. He said, "How do you get home?" I said, "I take the E-train." He said, "Can I go with you?" I said, "Sure." So here I am with Andy Kaufman on the train, and go up to my apartment in Briarwood, Queens. I was living with a wonderful girl wrestler by the name of Susan Sexton, the Australian champion. And we walk in, and every other word out of her mouth was the F-bomb. She says, "Hey, mate. Oh, F and Andy Kaufman, how you doing?" So we sat for hours. We sat for hours talking about how he wanted to be Buddy Rogers or Fred Blassie. And after about an hour and a half, Suzanne just said, "I can't listen to this crap anymore." And she went in the bedroom, put on her headphones, the Ramones, Gabba Gabba, hey, and it was just gone for the night. So I said to Andy, I said, "I have a friend in Memphis, Tennessee, Jerry Lawley." He says, "Oh, yeah, I've seen him in the magazine." I said, "They're way ahead of the curve here. They have characters like Frankenstein, the Wolfman. You're Elvis imitate. You go over great there. Why don't we call him?" He says, "Well, it's 1:00 in the morning." I said, "We're wrestling people. We call all night." So I called Jerry Lawler, and he says, "You got Andy Kaufman, the guy from Taxi, in your roach-infested apartment in Briarwood." I said, "Yeah." And I put him on the phone, and as the cliche goes, the rest is history, and that's what put the key in the ignition. And a few days later, Andy was down in Memphis, and Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett brilliantly set up that entire situation.